Can you recognize the invisible trap? Let me ask you something deeply personal, yet universally familiar. Have you ever left a conversation feeling like you'd been turned inside out? Like your words were twisted, your energy drained, and your reality rewritten, until you questioned whether you were losing your mind? If this sounds like your experience, you're not broken, delusional, or too sensitive. You're simply caught in the web of a narcissist. Today, I'll give you a single sentence, a verbal shield that will stop them in their tracks, dismantle their power, and make them fear you forever. Are you ready to claim it? Because once you hear it, you'll never see their games the same way again. The line that ends the game. Here it is. I'm not available for this conversation. That's it. No explanation. No debate. No desperate pleas for understanding. Just a calm, unshakable boundary that cuts through their chaos like a blade. This isn't just a phrase, it's a declaration of war on their control. And the moment you say it and mean it, you begin to reclaim your life. Why narcissists prey on your kindness? Narcissists aren't born this way. They're shaped by deep, festering insecurity masked by arrogance, manipulation, and an insatiable hunger for dominance. They target people like you, empathetic, self-aware, and kind, because your compassion blinds you to their toxicity. They know you'll bend to avoid conflict, question your instincts, and twist yourself into knots, trying to fix what's broken in them. They gaslight you until your memories feel foreign, rewrite history to cast themselves as victims, and drape their cruelty in false affection. They make you believe that if you just loved harder, stayed quieter, or bent a little further, they'd finally treat you right. But that day will never come. Why? Because their behavior isn't about you. It's about their refusal to face their own emptiness. The illusion of control. Narcissists thrive on keeping you off balance. Their entire strategy hinges on making you believe their anger, love, or approval is your responsibility. They weaponize your empathy, guilt trip you into silence, and dangle affection like bait, only to yank it away when you get too close. Their goal isn't connection, it's control. And the more you fight to prove your worth, the deeper they drag you into their abyss. But here's the truth. You are not the problem. Their abuse isn't a reflection of your flaws. It's a symptom of their rot. They don't hurt you because you failed them. They hurt you because pain is the only currency they understand. And the moment you stop believing their lies, their power begins to crumble. The freedom in letting go. Reclaiming your power starts with naming the manipulation for what it is. When they twist your words, call it gaslighting. When they blame you for their failures, recognize it as projection. When they love bomb you with empty promises, see it for the trap it is. Awareness is your first act of rebellion. But awareness alone isn't enough. You must act. Stop explaining yourself. Every justification you offer becomes ammunition. Your job isn't to fix their perception of you. It's to protect your peace. Refuse to debate abuse. There's no logic in their chaos. Arguing with a narcissist is like wrestling a ghost. You'll exhaust yourself without ever landing a punch. Walk away for good. Their chaos is not your responsibility. Every time you say, "I'm not available for this conversation," you sever a thread in their web. Repeat it until they learn you're no longer their prey. Why this terrifies them? Narcissists fear what they cannot control. When you stop chasing their approval, stop reacting to their provocations, and stop begging for fairness, you strip them of their power. They'll panic, escalate, or play the victim to reel you back in. But don't bite. Their desperation is proof you're winning. Because here's the secret they'll never admit. They envy your humanity. Your capacity to love, to feel, to grow. They can't access these truths, so they destroy them in others. But when you walk away, you prove you're untouchable. You prove their games no longer work. And that, above all, is what makes them fear you. Your liberation begins now. This isn't about revenge, it's about reclaiming your life. Every time you choose detachment over drama, you reinforce a new reality. You are no longer their emotional supply. You are no longer their pawn. Say the line, mean it, repeat it, and watch their power dissolve like smoke. Because the moment you stop fighting them, you win. Not with noise, but with silence. Not with anger, but with clarity. That is the quiet revolution they'll never survive. Understanding the core needs that drive narcissistic manipulation. At the heart of every narcissist's behavior lies a relentless pursuit of three fundamental needs: power, confusion, and validation. These are not just desires, they are survival mechanisms that shape their every interaction. By recognizing how they weaponize these needs, you begin to see their actions not as random cruelty, but as calculated strategies designed to keep you trapped in their web of control. Power, the foundation of their world. Power is the cornerstone of a narcissist's existence. They crave dominance over every aspect of your life, your emotions, thoughts, actions, and even your self-perception. Their world revolves around control, and they'll stop at nothing to maintain it. When they feel their grip slipping, they escalate, acting out with rage, withdrawing completely, or playing the victim to regain the upper hand. This control isn't always overt. Sometimes it's subtle, ignoring your boundaries, derailing conversations to shift focus back to themselves, or dismissing your opinions until you question your own voice. Their goal is to keep you off balance, dependent on their approval, and constantly second-guessing your worth. Power isn't just about authority for them, it's about survival. Without it, their fragile ego crumbles, exposing the insecurity they work so hard to hide. To confusion, the tool that keeps you trapped. Narcissists thrive in chaos because confusion is their greatest ally. They blur the lines between truth and lies, love and control, care and manipulation, leaving you dazed and doubting your own reality. This deliberate disorientation, often called gaslighting, is not accidental. It's a tactic designed to erode your confidence and keep you emotionally invested in their games. They might say one thing and do another, twist your words to fit their narrative, or deny statements they made moments ago. They'll invalidate your feelings, accusing you of being too sensitive or paranoid when you challenge their version of events. Over time, this relentless mind game forces you into a cycle of self-doubt, replaying conversations, questioning your memories, and over-explaining yourself to prove you're not crazy. This exhaustion is exactly what they want. A confused person is less likely to leave, fight back, or set firm boundaries. 3. Validation, the fuel for their ego. Validation is the narcotic that sustains a narcissist's self-image. They require constant praise, admiration, and attention, not out of vanity, but out of necessity. Their inflated ego is a shield against deep-seated shame, and without a steady stream of narcissistic supply, they spiral into anxiety or rage. Every compliment, agreement, or act of submission from you reinforces their illusion of superiority. But when you challenge them by setting limits, saying no, or calling out their behavior, they perceive it as rejection. This threat to their carefully curated image triggers defensive outbursts or cold withdrawal. They cannot tolerate criticism because it forces them to confront the truth. They spend their lives avoiding their own flaws. To protect their ego, they'll smear your reputation, devalue your worth, or flood you with false affection to reel you back in. Their goal, to ensure you remain a source of validation, no matter the cost to your well-being. Why these needs create a toxic cycle. Narcissists don't seek healthy relationships. They seek relationships they can dominate. Their need for power, confusion, and validation creates a toxic loop. They manipulate you to gain control. Hey, gaslight, yet to keep you uncertain. They demand admiration to soothe their insecurity. This cycle repeats endlessly because it works. As long as you engage by arguing, defending yourself, or seeking their approval, you feed their needs. But here's the key. Once you understand their motivations, you can break free. How to stop feeding their needs. Withhold power. Refuse to react to their provocations. Stay calm when they escalate, and walk away when they demand your energy. Your emotional detachment strips them of control. 2. Reject confusion. Trust your instincts. Document interactions if needed, and avoid debating their distortions. Clarity is your armor. 3. Limit validation. Stop trying to appease their ego. Withhold praise, affection, or attention that reinforces their behavior. Their approval is not your goal. Seeing patterns, not personal failures. The most liberating realization is that none of this is about you. Narcissists don't target you because of your flaws. They target you because of your strengths, your empathy, resilience, and capacity for love. These qualities make you vulnerable to their exploitation, but they also give you the power to escape. When you recognize their tactics as strategies, not reflections of your worth, you stop blaming yourself. You stop wondering, what did I do wrong, or why don't they love me enough? Instead, you see the truth. Their behavior is a product of their own brokenness, not your inadequacy. Your path forward. The moment you stop giving them what they need, their power dissolves. This doesn't mean cutting them out overnight, though that may be necessary. It means gradually withdrawing your emotional investment, setting unshakable boundaries, and refusing to play their games. Start small. Use neutral phrases like, "I'm not available for this conversation," to disengage. Refuse to debate their distortions. Prioritize your peace over their approval. Over time, they'll lose interest. Not because they've changed, but because you no longer serve their needs. And in that space of freedom, you reclaim your power, your clarity, and your right to a life unburdened by their manipulation. Because the truth is this, you were never the problem. And the moment you stop believing their lies, you begin to heal. Your greatest defense. The power of emotional detachment. When navigating the toxic dynamics of a narcissist, your most potent weapon isn't anger, confrontation, or even logic, it's emotional distance. By refusing to engage on their terms, you strip them of the fuel they crave. Your emotional reactions. This isn't about suppressing your feelings or pretending you're unaffected. It's about reclaiming your agency and denying them the satisfaction of seeing you unravel. Every time you choose detachment over drama, you dismantle their control, and that is where true power lies. Why narcissists feed on your emotions? Narcissists thrive on chaos because it gives them a sense of dominance. They want your tears, your frustration, your desperate attempts to explain or defend yourself. These reactions validate their influence over you. When you argue, plead, or over-explain, you reinforce their belief that they hold the upper hand. They interpret your emotional investment as proof of their power, using it to keep you trapped in an endless cycle of manipulation. The more you react, the more they push, testing your limits, rewriting narratives, and ensuring you remain emotionally entangled. But here's the secret. When you stop reacting, their entire strategy collapses. Emotional detachment isn't about indifference. It's about refusing to let their provocations dictate your peace. It means staying calm when they escalate, speaking firmly but neutrally when they bait you, and walking away without guilt or hesitation. By denying them the emotional responses they crave, you send an unshakable message. You no longer have power over me. The art of calm disengagement. True emotional detachment requires practice, but it follows a simple formula. Neutral tone, speak without urgency, defensiveness, or drama. Let your words carry clarity, not emotion. 2. Minimal words. Avoid over-explaining. A few firm sentences are more powerful than a lengthy defense. 3. Unapologetic boundaries. Set limits without justifying them. "I'm not available for this conversation" is a full sentence and a complete boundary. This approach unsettles narcissists because it disrupts their need for control. They expect you to chase their approval, defend your choices, or absorb their blame. When you respond with calm, unshakable detachment, you break their script. They may initially escalate, accusing you of being cold, dismissive, or cruel. But these outbursts are a sign of desperation, not strength. Their panic grows as they realize they can no longer manipulate your emotions to their advantage. The game changer. Saying "I'm not available." One simple phrase can redefine your entire dynamic. "I'm not available for this conversation." This isn't avoidance, it's a declaration of self-respect. By using it consistently, you signal that their attempts to provoke you are futile. You're no longer a source of emotional fuel, no longer a participant in their mind games. Here's why this works. It ends the power struggle. Engagement is the narcissist's playground. Arguments, guilt trips, and circular debates keep you emotionally invested in their chaos. Walking away cuts their access to your energy. It protects your peace. Narcissists want to destabilize you, to see you scramble for validation. By refusing to engage, you guard your mental clarity and emotional stability. It reclaims your autonomy. Every time you say no to their games, you affirm that your time, energy, and emotions belong to you, not to them. Why this terrifies narcissists? Narcissists fear what they cannot control. When you stop seeking their approval, stop reacting to their provocations, and stop explaining yourself, you undermine their entire identity. Their confidence is built on the illusion of superiority, sustained by the belief that they can manipulate your reactions. But when you walk away and stay gone, they face a terrifying truth. You no longer care about their narrative. You've stopped playing their game, and without your participation, their power dissolves. This is not about winning, it's about liberation. Emotional detachment isn't weakness. It's the courage to prioritize your well-being over someone else's need for dominance. It's recognizing that their chaos is not your responsibility, and their approval was never the prize. The ripple effect of consistency. At first, narcissists may double down on their tactics, hoping to provoke a reaction. They might escalate their drama, play the victim, or attempt to reel you back in with false kindness. But if you remain steadfast, their efforts will falter. Over time, they'll learn that their old tricks no longer work. Your calm, consistent boundaries become a mirror, reflecting their futility. This isn't about changing them, it's about changing your relationship to their behavior. Every time you choose detachment, you reinforce a new reality. You are no longer a pawn in their game. You are no longer their emotional supply. You are free, and that freedom, that's the moment they lose you forever. Not because you fought harder, but because you stopped fighting at all. Because you chose yourself over and over until their power over you became nothing more than a fading memory. This is the quiet revolution of emotional distance. It doesn't shout, it simply walks away, leaving their chaos behind. And in that silence, you find your strength. The power of a single line. How to disarm a narcissist without saying more. There is immense strength in simplicity, especially when dealing with a narcissist's relentless attempts to provoke, confuse, or manipulate you. A single, well-placed statement, delivered calmly and without apology, can become your most powerful tool. This line, whether it's "I'm not available for this conversation," "that doesn't work for me," or simply "no," is not just a boundary, it's a declaration of autonomy. Its beauty lies in its versatility. You can use it when they're trying to ignite an argument, when they're guilt-tripping you into submission, when they're weaving lies to distort reality, or when they demand endless explanations for your thoughts, feelings, or choices. It's a clean, non-negotiable exit strategy, a way to step out of their chaos without getting dragged into their drama. Why silence speaks louder than defense. The moment you stop justifying your stance is the moment you strip a narcissist of their power. They thrive on your explanations because those words become ammunition, fuel for twisting your narrative, rewriting history, or trapping you in circular debates. By refusing to engage, you deny them the chance to weaponize your vulnerability. This doesn't mean you're being cold or dismissive. It means you're prioritizing your peace over their need for control. When you say your line and walk away, or simply repeat it without elaboration, you send a clear message. I will not be manipulated. At first, this might escalate their tactics. They may lash out, accuse you of being rude, call you unresponsive, or claim you're avoiding them. But these reactions aren't about your behavior. They're about their panic as they realize they can no longer pull your strings. Consistency. The quiet rebellion that breaks their cycle. Narcissists rely on inconsistency to maintain dominance. They expect you to react emotionally, to explain yourself, to bend under pressure, or to return to their orbit after a period of distance. But when you respond the same way every time, calm, firm, and unwavering, you disrupt their entire strategy. Your consistency becomes a mirror, reflecting their futility. Over time, they learn that their old tricks no longer work. They might pivot to new tactics, hoping to catch you off guard. But if you remain grounded and detached, those efforts will crumble too. This isn't about perfection, it's about dedication. It's showing up for yourself, even when it's hard, even when their provocations test your patience. Every time you hold your boundary without wavering, you reinforce a truth they cannot ignore. You are no longer their puppet. Why steadiness is your greatest weapon. Narcissists fear what they cannot control, and nothing unsettles them more than your quiet, unshakable resolve. Their power isn't broken by dramatic confrontations, grand gestures, or heated arguments. It's dismantled by your repeated refusal to negotiate on their terms. When you stay steady, you remove the emotional volatility they depend on to keep you trapped. You stop giving them the reactions they crave, the explanations they exploit, or the attention they feed off. This isn't avoidance, it's self-preservation. It's choosing to protect your energy, your sanity, and your worth by refusing to let someone else dictate your reality. The freedom of unyielding boundaries. Eventually, your boundary becomes a non-negotiable part of your identity. They'll stop testing you, not because they've changed, but because they've accepted that their games no longer work. Your line isn't just a phrase, it's a shield. It protects you from their lies, their blame, their attempts to destabilize you, and the more you use it, the stronger it becomes. You won't need to defend it, justify it, or apologize for it. You'll simply live it, embodying the truth that your peace, your time, and your energy belong to you alone. This is where your power lies. Not in proving them wrong, but in walking away from a fight they'll never stop trying to start. Because the moment you stop reacting, the moment you stop chasing their approval, the moment you decide your boundaries are non-negotiable, that's the moment they lose you forever. And that, above all, is a freedom they can never touch. The narcissist cycle, and how to break it for good. Narcissists operate in a predictable, exhausting loop. They provoke, dominate, and deflect blame, only to repeat the pattern endlessly. It's a cycle designed to keep you off balance, to test your limits, and to reel you back into their chaos whenever you try to break free. They push your buttons to see if you'll react, gaslight you into doubting yourself, and then punish you for resisting their control. Over and over, they force you into a role, the emotional caretaker, the desperate pleaser, the one who bends to keep the peace. But here's the truth, breaking this cycle isn't about outsmarting them, it's about refusing to play. Why you're calm is their worst nightmare. Narcissists thrive on drama. They expect you to lash out when provoked, to crumble under their manipulation, to beg for their approval when they withdraw. They're used to watching others spiral into self-doubt or scramble to fix the chaos they create. But when you stay calm, grounded, and emotionally firm, when you respond not with reactivity, but with clarity, you disrupt their entire strategy. Your refusal to mirror their volatility confuses them. Your steady presence undermines their power. Because their control relies on your emotional turbulence, and when you stop giving them that fuel, their influence begins to unravel. Clarity over reaction, the power of choice. This doesn't mean you're immune to hurt, anger, or sadness. Of course you feel those emotions, because you're human. The difference lies in what you do with them. Do you act impulsively, letting their provocations drag you into their toxic dance? Or do you pause, acknowledge your feelings, and choose your response with intention? Emotional consistency isn't about perfection, it's about commitment to yourself. It's the deliberate decision to prioritize your peace, even when your instincts scream for retaliation. It's recognizing that every time you walk away from their games, you reinforce a boundary they can't cross. Consistency, the quiet rebellion. Narcissists fear consistency because it signals strength they can't exploit. When you mean it every time you say no, when you enforce your boundaries without apology, when you walk out and refuse to return, just because they've turned on the charm again, you send an unshakable message. I am not yours to control. This isn't about being flawless, it's about dedication. It's showing up for yourself, even when it's hard, even when their tactics try to pull you back into the cycle. Every time you choose clarity over reaction, you chip away at their power. Every time you stay calm under pressure, you prove you're no longer their puppet. The moment they lose you, they know the moment it happens. Not when you shout, fight, or demand apologies, but when you turn away. When you stop begging them to see you, to understand you, to change. When you realize that their validation was never the prize, and your worth has always been yours to claim, that's when their control disintegrates. They can't weaponize your emotions if you no longer hand them the tools. They can't rewrite your reality if you trust your instincts, and they can't trap you in their cycle if you've already walked out of the room. Your freedom is non-negotiable. Breaking free isn't a single act, it's a series of choices. Choosing yourself when they demand your energy. Choosing peace when they stir chaos. Choosing boundaries they refuse to respect. And in those choices you reclaim your power, not through grand gestures, but through the quiet, unyielding resolve of someone who finally sees their own strength. Because the moment you stop reacting, the moment you stop chasing their approval, the moment you decide your peace matters more than their games, that's the moment they lose you forever. And that, above all, is a freedom they can never touch. Perhaps most importantly, remember this: they fear your clarity more than your anger, more than your defiance, because clarity dismantles their entire illusion. It's not a single moment of resistance or a fleeting boundary that threatens them. It's the cumulative, unshakable choice to prioritize yourself relentlessly, to anchor yourself in self-respect, and to refuse their games over and over until their power dissolves like smoke. When you act from understanding rather than reaction, when you choose peace over chaos, simply because you deserve it, not as a concession, but as a non-negotiable truth, you strip them of their greatest weapon, your emotional energy. Narcissists feed on confusion, on the turbulence they create to keep you off balance. But clarity, that's a force they cannot combat. It's not loud or dramatic, it's the quiet certainty of someone who no longer needs their approval to feel whole. And that's what makes them terrified of you. Because narcissists don't fear your strength, they fear your freedom. They fear the person who refuses to be pulled into their vortex of manipulation, who sees through their tactics and walks away anyway. When you say, "I'm not available for this conversation," you're not just ending a discussion, you're declaring that your time, your energy, and your peace are sacred, and you won't let anyone tarnish them. You're asserting that your worth isn't up for debate, that their attempts to provoke, guilt-trip, or belittle you hold no currency anymore. This isn't just a boundary, it's a revolution. Every time you choose yourself, you deliver a blow to their fragile ego, which thrives on the belief that they can twist your reality. Every time you walk away from their drama, you dismantle the fantasy they built around you, the idea that you exist to serve their needs, validate their ego, or orbit their chaos. Now, you're not just exiting a toxic exchange, you're dismantling the entire narrative they crafted to keep you trapped. They can no longer weaponize your emotions, because you've stopped handing them the tools. They can't gaslight you into doubting yourself, because you trust your instincts now. They can't isolate you because you've reclaimed your voice and your truth. And in that absence of control, their power crumbles. Not because you fought them, but because you stopped giving them a stage. This is the moment their strength begins to unravel, not when you confront them, but when you turn away. Not when you prove them wrong, but when you stop trying to be understood by someone who never wanted to understand you. Their influence fades not with a bang, but with the quiet, unshakable resolve of someone who finally sees themselves clearly. And that clarity? It becomes your armor. Not because you're trying to shut them out, but because you've realized there's nothing left to defend. You are enough. You always were. And the moment you internalize that truth, their hold on you vanishes forever.